right, you are back with comedian David Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. You would think with all this time on my hands, all this free time, I don't really have that much free time. Besides this podcast, I barely get a chance to be by myself anymore. And I need a substantial amount of alone time. I'm like Superman, in more ways than one, but mainly because I need to rejuvenate. I need to get my strength back in a fortress of solitude. I can't have any interruptions besides my phone. I just need to be amongst crystals. I actually got into crystals for a while. That was in my heyday. That's when I was fucking deep into conspiracy theories. I got into crystals and I got into orgone energy. Orgone energy. I'll repeat that. Orgone energy. I'll make fun of orgone energy now, but I still kind of believe it. William S. Burroughs, the famous author, had an orgone accumulator. He would sit in it every day. And how old did he live to? I don't know. Fucking old. I think he was 92 or something like that. And he did everything. He did heroin. He shot his missus in the head. He was part of the Beat Riders, and then he was like a grandfather of the punk movement. He shot his missus in the head. Remember I said that before? He point blank shot his wife in the head. He said to her, "Put an apple on your head and I'll shoot it off your head," and he just missed and got her in the face. And that's something we can all respect, isn't it? Especially in times like this, in lockdown, in times like this, you can really respect a move like that. That's a lot of trust you have to build over the years with your wife to be able to shoot her in the head like that. And he got off as well, by the way. William S. Burroughs, look him up. He wrote The Naked Lunch and Junkie, and he was a junkie. Actually, at the start of Naked Lunch, he has the best fucking little paragraph about heroin. Hold on, let me get it. I'll just find it. Alright, here it is, but it's not a fucking happy little paragraph. It's 4 pages, and I'm not fucking doing that to you. There's one particular paragraph that makes you keen on fucking heroin, even though he's writing bad things about it. I'll just find it. Okay, here it is. I lived in one room in the native quarter of Tangier. I had not taken a bath in a year, nor changed my clothes or removed them, except to stick a needle every hour in the fibrous grey wooden flesh of terminal addiction. I never cleaned or dusted the room. Empty ampule boxes and garbage piled up to the ceiling. Light and water had been long since turned off for non-payment. I did absolutely nothing. I could look at the end of my shoe for 8 hours. I was only roused to action when the hourglass of junk ran out. If a friend came to visit, and they rarely did, since who or what was left to visit, I sat there not caring that he had entered my field of vision. A grey screen, always blanker and fainter, and not caring when he walked out of it. If he had died on the spot, I would have sat there looking at my shoe, waiting to go through his pockets. Wouldn't you? Because I never had enough junk. No one ever does. Okay, that might have been a waste of time, but anyway, I got carried away. I thought it was going to be a fucking paragraph. It ended up being the whole introduction to The Naked Lunch by William S. Burroughs. Anyway, that cunt shot his wife in the head. Did I mention that? And also sat in an orgone energy accumulator for most of his life, and he ended up living till 92. Now, I don't know whether it was the heroin or the orgone energy accumulator that kept him alive that long, or shooting his missus. Try them all. But something worked for him. You can't argue that. Now, where was I? Crystals, Superman. I was Superman. I need my solitude. But fuck that, don't worry about that. That was just rambling so I could find something to talk about, and now I have something to talk about. The orgone energy and the shooting your missus in the head is a beautiful segue into my next segment, which is informed, uninformed conspiracies. It's a 3-pronged attack today, and someone actually sent in a subject for me to look into. And like the professional podcaster I am, I ignored it until about 1 minute ago. So I'm just going to uninform the subject this week. So the listener wanted to know CBD oil. Does this shit cheer miserable cunts up? That's a great question because I just happen to be an expert on CBD oil and marijuana in general. And a few of the listeners I have are actually experts on weed and weed oil and CBD and all that sort of shit. So if they hear this and I get anything wrong, which I highly doubt I will, They can message me and fill me in with the facts, and I'll relay them back to you. Okay, I'll tell you this. All the reports I get back from CBD oil is it's fucking great. It doesn't get you high, makes you fall asleep, you sleep deeply. If you get a good sleep, you're halfway there to not being a miserable cunt. Sleep 8 hours a night and you're halfway there. I've heard the quality varies quite a bit, so if you were to use it, I've been told you need to get the good stuff, do a little bit of research, get onto it, do your due diligence. I'm not sure it works for everyone. Like, if you're Irish, I'm not sure there's anything in the world powerful enough to cheer you cunts up. The miserable is too deep. Same with the Russians. So you two just stick to your Guinness, your Kilkennys, and your fucking straight methylated spirits vodka. For most other people, though, I think it works. I've been told on good authority from many people that CBD oil works. I'll tell you this as well. About 9-10 years ago, I was doing fucking deep dives into like conspiracies. It started out with like food conspiracies, then like the healthcare and all that sort of shit. And I stumbled across this like homemade documentary by this guy, Rick Simpson. And what he was doing, he was making Rick Simpson weed oil. He was taking garbage bags full of weed, turning it into oil, and then giving it to people around his area who were sick with cancer. I think he did it on himself first. I don't know. I haven't watched this in a long time. I think he may have treated himself with his own weed oil first, and then he started giving it to other people. But they were taking high fucking doses. They were taking like 20 grams of weed oil a day, I think. Maybe less, maybe 10 or something like that. I don't know. It was a lot though. And I looked into that, and back when YouTube wasn't so fucking filtered, you could find heaps of testimonies of people genuinely making their own weed oil and treating themselves. People with chronic back pain, people with cancer, cerebral palsy, epilepsy, all of it. I spent hours and hours and hours looking up these testimonies because what I wanted to use it for was my nana. Her back was fucked even back then. It was on the way out, even 10 years ago. And after watching the Rick Simpson thing and then looking at all the testimonials, I felt in my gut, I'm like, this is right. It feels right to me. And I'm not a big weed guy. I'm not a weed guy at all. I've had weed sitting in my drawer for the last year and a half, 2 years, and I haven't fucking smoked a bit. So I started telling Dad, I'm like, let's go to New Zealand. Let's get fucking some weed oil made up. I know how to make it. Well, I did in theory. I hadn't made it before, but I'd watched enough YouTube tutorials to get the gist. You know what I mean? And then it just never eventuated. My old man was like, she won't want to take it. She blah, 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 fucking blah, blah, blah. I'm like, let's just fucking do it. Just fucking sneak it into her coffee, see how she reacts, and we'll go from there. And then it just never happened. And I was on his ass for like the last 5 years. I'm like, get her on weed. Get her on weed oil. So last year, they went through the doctors and they finally got some medicinal marijuana prescribed by the doctor. But the doctors underprescribe medical marijuana for some reason. She was allowed to take a dot a day. A tiny little dot of medical marijuana. That's all she was allowed. Like, these other cunts were taking 5-6 grams. Obviously, that's a lot, but they were trying to cure some shit. And they weren't saying that 5 or 6 grams was a very fucking exciting experience. It's like they fucking passed out, throwing up, you're fucked. But after a while, you start getting better. Anyway, I was yelling at Dad. I'm like, that's not enough. She's got to fucking take more. And he's like, well, they don't give you more. I'm like, just get her some fucking weed then. Her back's beyond repair now. Like, it's completely fucked. It's like a fucking dollar sign now. But anyway, at the start of the year, they got her some weed, just some bud, and started rolling her joints. And for the first time in about fucking 2-3 years, she was bouncing around, she was eating, she was chirpy, she was fucking sweet. She was smoking weed instead of cigarettes. So she was going through maybe, I don't know, fucking 10 joints a day. I don't know how many she was going through, but she was feeling good. But her back's so fucked now that it's never going to repair it or fucking make her feel better. She's also on triple dose of fentanyl and morphine and shit like that. So there's more problems going on. But that is what it is. So I was watching it about 9 or 10 years ago, And 6.5 years ago, I got married in India, and one of my mates came, who was the guy who was growing weed for the Serbian mafia in a European country. I'm not going to say which one. And when we were in India, I was having a chat to him and I brought up weed oil. And I'm like, do you know anything about weed oil? He's like, yeah, I take it every day as a preventative. I'm like, what? You take it every day? He's like, yeah, I can make it. I use my offcuts and I make it every day. I give it to my parents and that as well. I'm like, seriously? He's like, yeah. I'm like, does it work? And he's like, well, about 1.5 years ago, my dad went to the doctor and on his hand, he had a melanoma, a sickle cell carcinoma or something like that. And they wanted to cut it out and put him through chemo and shit like that. And my friend said he gave his dad some weed oil and said rub it on it as an ointment. And he did that. And 2.5 weeks later, it completely disappeared. Make of that what you will. And then about 1 year ago, I was speaking to him again. And I asked him again about that just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating the whole thing. And he told me the same thing again. He's like, yeah, I gave it to him. 2.5 weeks later, it disappeared. I'm like, did it ever come back? No, it never came back. He was fine after that. Look it up. Rick Simpson weed oil. Look the documentary up. And about 4 or 5 years ago, one of my mates' stepdads was dying from cancer. And I told him for fucking 2 years, I'm like, weed, man. I sent him all the links. I'm like, make some oil for him. Make some oil for him. And then eventually, he bought a couple of ounces. We ended up making it. We ended up getting about 2, 3, 4 grams, maybe 4 grams of oil out of 2 ounces of bud. But by the time we got around to doing it and then he took it over, his stepdad was completely gone. He couldn't hold anything down. I think he died like 4 days later. So he never got to test it, but my mate ended up smoking and eating all of it. And he said it was very strong, powerful stuff. But I'm pretty sure he was just talking about the high you get. Anyway, that's all I know about the subject. If you can get it, just fucking take it. Import it. Just get it sent through in the mail. I would like some sent through in the mail too. Anyone out there listening, send it through. All right, that's it for me tonight. That's been Uninformed, and I've been David Boyle. If you're enjoying the podcast, share it with your friends, and I'll see you the fuck later.